I'd like you to talk a little bit about your devotional lives. What do you do during desert times?
When I say this, I'm not suggesting that there isn't value to things like devotional books and devotional reading. And I like to read a lot, and I try to read as much as I can. I've been a little bit shocked at how much this job has taken away reading time. As the associate pastor, you have a lot more time to read. You've got a lot more time to read now than you'll ever have at any other point in your ministry.
Remember that.
Get it in.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did when
Except
I had
he's
that.
reading for class
Well,
here.
I did that too. I did my
Yeah.
D-Min while I was the associate, and that position allowed for a certain kind of reading
Yeah.
that just is not available as a senior pastor. I'm not belly aching about that because I've never been a devotional reader kind of a person. I like to read books.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying it has to be
Yeah.
a particular devotional.
And I wish I could tell you too that I'm very pious and that I get up at 5 a.m. every morning and
He does.
and I get in my closet and I pray and I'm reading my Bible, at the candlelight at the crack of dawn. I don't do those kinds of things. I hope that isn't a scandalous revelation to anybody.
Well, you are reading the Bible.
I am reading the Bible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I read the Bible a lot, and the Bible does feed my soul. I think preparing sermons actually has been quite devotional in terms of filling me up. But all of that is to say, while those things are good, the thing that is the most life-giving to me are relationships. Having Rick still at Beverly Heights Church has been a tremendous blessing. There's a tradition within Presbyterian and Reformed. It's unspoken. It's actually, in some cases, it's spoken and codified in constitutional law.
Is it like a secret handshake?
Well,
it's
you
law.
you retire, you get to step
Oh,
in.
yeah, right.
You get out
Yeah.
of Dodge.
Yeah.
You get out and you get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And there are reasons for that, historical reasons and practical reasons, all of which I understand, but all of which I've rejected summarily. Why would we want to weaken our church, and why would I want to be enfeebled by no longer having access to a dear friend of mine?
You've handled that extraordinarily well. I mean, Rick is not a meddlesome person. That may come as a surprise to your wife, but
right.
You're not.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons it works. In the ministry, it should not be unusual.
It shouldn't be. If pastoral ministry there is a sort of succession kind of a reality to pastoral ministry, and it's not foreign to the Bible. I mean,
No,
you can
not at
look
all.
at
Not at all.
Elijah and Elisha and David and Solomon,
Yeah.
and you can look at what Jesus is doing with the apostles. There's just time and time again,
Yeah.
Moses and Joshua. There's all these close relationships that set up the next generation for leadership.
Right.
To the extent that we don't do that in the church, I think we've weakened the church.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this Rick's quite a guy.
He is quite
Who
a
is this guy?
Wow. I'd like to meet him sometime.
So anyhow, it should not be the exception. It should be the norm.
And I think in our case, it's 1 + 1 = 3. There's no one who can look at what you've done as pastor emeritus and not say that Beverly Heights has benefited tremendously.
Yeah, I meet with Rick. I enjoy talking to Rick about the ministry, about our lives. I spend I don't want to quite say inordinate amount because I think it's actually ordinate. It's appropriate. I spend a lot of time talking to our staff. I just haunt doorways.
Oh, boy, do you. I've never had longer staff meetings in 43 years.
But it's also the managing by walking around.
Yes. And I don't do performance reviews because I don't have to.
Yeah.
Because I talk to everybody all the time.
Yeah.
And I try to talk to our session all the time. There's you may have heard comments like this from people who are distant to the ministry. Well, the session's just made up of Rick's friends, or the session's made up of Nate's friends, or the policy team is made up of so-and-so's friends, or the staff is made up of Nate or Rick's friends. And there's an implication that is suggested when that's being said. And what I will say is guilty as charged, because if that person is on the session, guess what? They are going to become my friend. If that person is on the staff, they are going to become my friend.
Yeah.
If I delight in these relationships.
Well, my response always was, well, my enemies weren't available. Just so that there's not the wrong impression given when Nate talks about his devotional life. I have a picture in my mind, seared into my mind, because it is a picture that I've seen over and over again when I was still on the staff. Nate occupied an office that had a window in the door. And straight through that window was Nate's desk. So he worked at his desk facing the wall in front of him. And
His back to the window.
Yeah, his back to the window.
Right.
And I kind of followed the practice, that's why I mentioned it, of managing by wandering around. I would frequently go to wander into his office. But as I would walk to the door, more times than not, particularly on a particular time of the day, I would see Nate, and he would be huddled over his desk. And he's a big man, and so here's this large man sitting at his desk, huddled over his desk. And he was reading his Bible.
Yeah, right.
I preached at Beverly Heights this past Sunday, and I walked into the office. Nate's been gracious in giving me use of the office that used to be mine. And so I walked in to prepare, and his desk now is not facing the wall, it's facing out into the room. But Nate is huddled over his desk reading his Bible. There's probably not a morning that goes by that very shortly after we awake, that my wife isn't in her chair in the living room in front of the fireplace, which is where she was this morning when I left, doing her devotions. That means reading through a portion of the scriptures so that she can read through the Bible in a year. I don't do that. Then she has a devotional guide, table talk that she uses from Ligonier Ministries. And then she has Valley of Vision, a group of Puritan prayers
uses the
that
same
she uses
book.
that every day. And then she has a book, a journal, where she keeps her prayer lists, me on the top, and the children, and the grandchildren, and people in church, the church missionaries, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
That's her devotional life, and I'd like to do things that protect that time for her. My devotional growth comes from preparing for studies and sermons and those and the writing
Teaching.
assignments that you've
Yeah.
given to me and
Yeah.
assignments,
Right.
and that kind of thing. I've never been a devotional guide reader. My own opinion is that most of what's on the market's garbage. That would be my practices
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. How about you, Peter?
Well, it's changed many times over the seasons of my life. It looked a particular way in high school, where I had a lot more time. College was probably the most regimented, that I had created a system for myself that I thought by which all of this structure will surely make me very holy. And it was good.
How's that working for you?
And then when we had a baby, our first child, that was the most fundamental shift that happened, and 4 more later, that every child continues to remind me that I am not sovereign. So I'd say my devotional life has, because I'm also in school and learning, studying Scripture in for class, it necessarily looks different these days. In general, prayer is my devotional life. That's not really something you study, that's something you practice. God's grace and gift to me during COVID and the difficult transition I think I had coming out of what I was doing into working here at the church and going to seminary, was that if I don't start my day physically on my knees, then my heart doesn't start on its knees either. And so my devotional life is I have to get out of bed, and the first thing I do, I have to pray in a very particular posture. And that seems to align the beginning of my day to at least have a hope of
Particular posture,
physically.
prone or?
I am physically bowed. If I don't do that, I don't know why, but this last year, and it's only been a year that this is, but it's been about 14 or 15 months that this has been the practice.
And you've got to get ready to meet these two guys every day.
Yeah. That'll get you on your knees.
Wow. You're really, I'd knock you on your
Just
back.
preparing for war. So it's my devotional life is prayer and study, because that's all I mean.
That's good for me. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tom.
I enjoyed this
Thank
very
you, Tom.
much.
Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah.